V6, the problems in V6 are about bases, and so there's a prerequisite to doing this lesson, and that is you need to know something about bases. For instance, if you have the number 1011 in base 2, what does that equal in base 10? I'm asking you to turn it into a base 10 number, and that's kind of a prerequisite for doing this particular lesson. Now, if you know what you're doing, you know that in base 2, this is worth 2 to the 0 power, this is worth 2 to the first power, this is worth 2 to the second, and this is worth 2 to the third. 2 to the 0 is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 8. So we've got 1, 1, we've got 1, 2, we've got no 4s, and we've got an 8. And so you would know that this number in base 2 is 11 in base 10. That's prerequisite knowledge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go back and do some work with bases. Quite a bit, maybe. Takes a while. What V6 is about is a fast way, a kind of spectacularly fast way to turn a base number, a base 10 number, into any base you want. It could be base 2, it could be base 3, it could be base 4, any base you want. And so I'm going to show you how to turn base 11 in base 10 into this number in base 2. And I'm going to call this process I guess a division ladder or a division remainder ladder, because it's the remainders we're interested in, kind of like we were interested in remainders when we did mod arithmetic in 9.3. So if you're turning 11, a base 10 number, 11, if you're turning it into base 2, what you do is you divide by 2 a whole bunch of times. 2 goes into 11 5 times, but the remainder's 1. Keep track of those remainders. 2 goes into 5 twice, and the remainder's 1. 2 goes into 2 once, and the remainder's 0. 2 goes into 1 0 times, and the remainder is 1. And if you read the remainders from top to bottom in this direction, you will get 1 0 1 1, and that's a match, and this always works. So let's try it again. Let's try a little bit bigger number. That's 131 in base 10, and let's turn it into a base 6 number just for the heck of it. So how would you turn 131 in base 10 into a base 6 number? Well, you would divide by 6, but you would keep track of the remainders. Now, you may need a calculator for this. I'm not going to use one, but you may need one, because the question is, can you divide 6 into 131 and get the remainder without a calculator? I don't know. Let's try it. So if this is too big for you to do, for instance, watch. 6 goes into 13 twice. That's a 12. You're going to get a 1 1, and 6 goes into 11 once, and there's a remainder of 5. Now, if that is too hard for you to do, and it's possible that it is, then what you have to do is you have to come over here outside of this little chain of remainders, and you've got to actually do the work and then put the result over here. You don't want all this work messing up your chain over here. You want to keep your chain clean. If you don't know how to do this, you could do the division in using software or a calculator and get the remainder that way. I'll show you at the end of this video how to do a division on a calculator where you actually get the remainder. In fact, I can show you right now. If you do 131 divided by 6 on your calculator, you will get a decimal number. It will be 21 point and some stuff. Then what you do is you take away 21 from that, subtract 21 from that on your calculator, and you'll have a decimal point and some stuff. And then you take that number and you multiply it by the thing you divided by, and you will get 5. So that's one way of finding the remainder. You might want to think about that. Now, I think these are small enough we don't have to do any more of that kind of talk. 6 goes into 21 3 times, and there's a remainder of 3. And 6 goes into 3 times, 6 goes into 3 0 times, with a remainder of 3. If we read this from top to bottom, my guess is that this base 6 number, I'm just going to put a 6 down here in subscript, this base 6 number is the same thing as 131 in base 10. Let's see. In base 6, this is worth 6 to the 0 power, or 1, so that's 5 ones, that's 5. This is worth 6 to the first power, that's 6, that's 3 sixes, that's 18. And this is worth 6 to the second power, that's 36, that's 3 times 36, that's 108. If I add these up, I get 108 plus 18, that's 126, plus 5 is 131. So it checks. Notice this check won't make any sense to you unless you've done the prerequisite work.